The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and Daniel stepped out, his heart pounding louder than the clack of shoes on the marble floor. He adjusted the diaper bag slung over his shoulder, shifted the small blanket wrapped around his 6-month-old daughter, and walked toward the glass-paneled conference room. Inside, a row of sharp-dressed professionals looked up. Conversations paused. Eyebrows rose. One interviewer leaned toward another and whispered, barely hiding a smirk. A chuckle escaped from someone in the back. Daniel heard it all, but he didn't flinch. He offered a polite smile, gently bounced his daughter, who gurgled blissfully unaware of the judgment in the air, and approached the panel with quiet confidence. Every eye in the room seemed to ask the same question: why would a man bring a baby to a job interview? He cleared his throat and said, "Good morning. Thank you for seeing me today." His voice was steady, despite the flush rising in his cheeks. The baby tightened her grip on his finger, as if giving him strength. He knew what they were thinking. That he was unprepared. Unprofessional. Maybe even desperate. But he also knew why he was there, and who he was doing it for. In that moment, he wasn't just a candidate. He was a father making a stand, walking into a world that often didn't make room for people like him. And though they didn't know it yet, the story he carried in his arms was about to change everything. The room was uncomfortably quiet as Daniel settled into the chair, carefully balancing his daughter in his lap. The panelists exchanged unsure glances, their rehearsed questions suddenly seeming inadequate. One man finally cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. "Mr. Hayes, wouldn't it have been more appropriate to, well, make other arrangements for your child today?" Daniel met his eyes calmly, without defensiveness. "I had a babysitter lined up," he said gently, his voice carrying a quiet steadiness. "But she called in sick this morning. And I had a choice: cancel the interview and risk losing the opportunity, or show up as I am." There was a brief pause. Someone tapped a pen. The baby let out a soft coo, breaking the tension like sunlight through a crack. Daniel smiled at her, then looked back at the panel. "I'm not here today in spite of her," he said. "I'm here because of her. Every decision I make now starts with her." The simplicity of his words hung in the air, disarming the room. The chuckles and sideways glances from earlier began to feel misplaced, even to those who had made them. No one responded right away, and for a few seconds, the only sound was the soft rhythmic tapping of a tiny hand against Daniel's shirt. What began as an awkward moment of perceived unprofessionalism was quickly evolving into something far more human. The interview had barely started, yet already, everything felt different. The questions slowly shifted from formality to curiosity, as if the room was warming up to something real. One of the interviewers, a woman with kind eyes, leaned forward. "Tell us more about your background, Daniel. What brought you here?" He took a breath, steadying himself. "I used to work in tech sales, good company, great benefits. My wife and I were expecting our first child last year. We had plans. A nursery, weekend hikes, matching coffee mugs that said Mom and Dad." He paused, his throat tightening. "But during delivery, there were complications. She didn't make it." The silence in the room grew heavier, more reverent. Daniel looked down at his daughter, resting peacefully in his arms. "I held my baby girl for the first time while saying goodbye to the love of my life. In one moment, I became a father and a widower." No one knew what to say. He didn't need sympathy, just a moment to be seen. "I left my job to grieve and learn how to be a parent. It was the hardest, most humbling thing I've ever done. But it taught me everything about resilience, about commitment, about showing up even when it hurts." His voice cracked slightly, but he didn't turn away. "So I'm not here with a spotless resume. I'm here with real experience, the kind that teaches you how to lead with heart, think on your feet, and never give up." A long pause followed. But this time, no one looked away. The atmosphere in the room had completely shifted. The formal stiffness was gone, replaced by a quiet attentiveness. No one glanced at their watches anymore. Instead, the panel leaned in, truly listening, not to a candidate rehearsing talking points, but to a man telling the truth. An older man at the end of the table asked, "How do you manage your time with everything on your plate?" Daniel smiled. "I've become an expert in crisis management," he said, burning a few soft laughs. "Nap schedules, teething, doctor appointments, life doesn't pause for meetings. But I've learned to prioritize, delegate, adapt. And most of all, to stay calm when things fall apart." The baby stirred, letting out a gentle whimper. Instinctively, Daniel bounced her gently and whispered something only she could hear. The tenderness of it silenced the room again, not out of discomfort this time, but awe. Then something unexpected happened. The woman with kind eyes stood, walked over, and crouched beside the baby. "Hi there," she said sweetly, offering her finger. The baby grabbed it with a soft giggle, and even the sternest panelists couldn't help but smile. "What would you do," another interviewer asked, "if your child got sick on the morning of a product launch?" Daniel didn't miss a beat. "I'd call the team the night before with a backup plan already in place. I've learned to always stay one step ahead." Laughter and nods followed. Judgment had turned into respect. The room no longer saw a disruption, they saw a leader. A few days later, Daniel sat at his small kitchen table, spooning mashed bananas into his daughter's mouth while she giggled and smeared more on her cheeks than she ate. His phone buzzed beside a stack of unpaid bills and a worn resume. He hesitated, then answered. "Hi, Daniel. This is Karen from Blue Ridge Tech. We'd like to offer you the position." He blinked, unsure he'd heard right. I got the job." "Yes," she said warmly. "Actually, everyone in the room was moved by you. Your honesty. Your strength. We don't just want to hire you, we want to learn from you." Daniel closed his eyes, a wave of relief and disbelief crashing over him. His daughter squealed with joy, completely unaware of the life-changing moment unfolding. Karen continued, "We've also decided to introduce a new family support initiative, flexible hours, child care resources, caregiver leave. You helped us see the kind of people we need, not just on our teams, but leading them." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. As he hung up, he looked at his daughter, who was now clapping her hands in delight at a spoon. "We did it, baby girl," he said, voice trembling. "We really did it." Months later, Daniel's story was shared across the company, and beyond. Not as a tale of pity, but of possibility. Because sometimes, showing up with your whole self, even when it feels like a risk, is exactly what the world needs to change.